Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. The assassination of former Ukrainian parliamentary speaker Andriy Parubiy in Lviv has raised serious concerns about possible Russian involvement. At the same time, Russian President Vladimir Putin has emphasized that NATO enlargement must be addressed as a key step toward lasting peace in Ukraine. To help us understand the implications of these developments, we're now joined by Ryhor Nizhnikau, senior researcher at the Finnish Institute of International Affairs. Good to have you back on TVP World.
Thank you. Good to be back, indeed.
Ryhor, let's begin with a little bit of background of this terrible assassination and Mr. Parubiy. How significant of a figure was he? Why did he matter so much to Ukraine?
It's a huge tragedy for Ukraine, and obviously Russia targets the best and the brightest in Ukraine. He was one of the core statesmen after Euromaidan, the chair of the Verkhovna Rada, and most importantly, a well-known patriot of Ukraine, who actually indeed always wanted, but also who moved forward, advanced the vision of Ukraine as a European, democratic, and most importantly, free country.
Mm-hmm. And also looking at the culprits here, I mean, we're still sketchy on some of the information, but can you tell us a little bit more about what Ukrainian officials are saying? Because I think they're alluding as well here already to Russian involvement. What kind of credible evidence is there, and what could this potentially mean for the security risk of other prominent Ukrainian officials?
Well, according to the Ukrainian officials, the suspect has been apprehended and already gave a testimony, and there is obvious and clear Russia's involvement into this, and that's obvious. Nobody needs to look into this much further. This is an obvious and clear risk for any Ukrainian who is patriotic and who actually really wants Ukraine to succeed. This is what Russia wants to do. That's what Russia is doing, and that's puts the country's internal cohesion to a certain degree in danger, because, of course, the fact that Russia hires Ukrainian nationals to do these assassinations carries a symbolic risk, a symbolic meaning.
Mm-hmm. And what about now the next steps as well, also internationally? What should the West now, the international community, do as a result of all this, if, as you said, the evidence is clear that it's in Russia's doing and all this?
My only recommendation and solution, what the EU should do is to support the Ukrainian armed forces. This is the best way. This is what the West can do best to counteract Russia's aggressive behavior in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I want to speak about Vladimir Putin at this point in time, saying that in any case, we still seem to be quite far away from a peace settlement of any kind. But Vladimir Putin keeps talking about these root causes, keeps talking about NATO as being one of the reasons. We also talked about that he has an understanding with Donald Trump, that they met and they spoke at length. So what do you make of where we are right now and Vladimir Putin's recent statements and all this? And I think one thing I want to share now is also someone who's been in the corner of Ukraine for a long time, the Baltic states, President Nausėda of Lithuania. Let's just hear what he had to say about everything connected to Russia's continued aggression.
Russia is not sincere in these peace efforts. At present, they are trying to buy time and secure the support of sympathetic countries. It is no coincidence that this meeting in China shows that it is not only the forces of good that are uniting. With the strong backing of China and some other states around the world, Russia may become an even more difficult country to deal with. The role of European states is becoming important. We are the ones who can, through both words and actions, provide real security guarantees to Ukraine. And most importantly, we can help maintain peace if a peace agreement is reached. Of course, Russia will not agree to peacekeeping forces from countries it considers hostile. Nevertheless, I believe this must be done. and that there must be a coalition willing to move to the next level, not only exchanging views, but also beginning to plan concrete tasks and capabilities.
All right, so what was your takeaway from what the president said there and generally about where we stand with peace settlement potentially?
I fully agree. This is exactly where we are. It's a stalemate. Russia doesn't really want any meaningful peace in Ukraine. It wants to advance its goals. So, and we see two options at the table for Ukraine from Moscow's side. On the one hand, they want Ukraine to turn into Belarus 2.0, basically Russification, a puppet government, and so on, or they offer Ukraine a military defeat. That's two options. That's why we cannot anyhow accept and even think that Moscow will be engaging in any type of a settlement in Ukraine. As for where to go, I again agree with Lithuanian president. It's Europe has to step up. So it's move beyond the words, move beyond what we are doing right now, because it's totally insufficient. The task in Ukraine is much bigger than what we are currently doing, and I think this is something that we should really do, especially exactly in light of what's happening in China has been in the recent couple of days. We do see that this coalition of anti-Western coalition of the evil, or whatever you can call it, is resolute to continue supporting Moscow in particular. And the energy deal between Russia and China is exactly the case in point, because in the face of Trump's ultimatum to put sanctions on Russia and China for energy deals, they signed a memorandum on a gas pipeline which has been stalled for years. This is symbolic and very clear signal, and I would say slap in the face of Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. And we saw also, speaking of China in that direction, also Donald Trump, I mean, one of his own Truth Socials yesterday, I think he was saying that very directly that these leaders in China are gathering there to collude against them and plotting against the United States. So he's obviously riled there, at least in that sense. But I want to come back to the energy topic. And right now it's a memorandum. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do, this massive Siberia 2 pipeline. But do you think in your mind that this would have some kind of response now on an EU level? Could this somehow make the Europeans consider maybe other sanctions? I mean, energy is key here. So what do you think the European response should be having this pipeline go forward?
I think basically what Europe can do is actually indeed to consider sanctioning China. China is empowering Moscow and actually really is behind the Russian aggression. And we can actually say that China is behind Iran, China is behind North Korea, China is behind Russia, all the countries which actually stir instability to a certain degree on European borders are against the European values. So the EU shall consider that, but there is a clear political problem inside the EU. Countries like Hungary and Slovakia will be the first one to block any meaningful action. So this is a conundrum which Brussels has to look at. But we at least have the coalition of the willing. This is something that they can look at and actually start thinking whether they can turn finally in the coalition of the resolute and start acting more meaningfully.
Mm-hmm. I want to just flip for a second as well, because we have obviously a very still close relationship the European Union does with trade with China. It has a close relationship with the United States. It seems that Europe is being wedged here strategically by Donald Trump as well, now by China with energy in a way. So, I mean, is there a way out? How do you see this? I mean, sanctioning is not so easy. We've seen all those sanctions packages. It takes a long time. Outright sanctioning even harder for China. That would be difficult, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. That's why it's not an easy path. And that's why this has to be really strategically calculated. And to a certain degree, Europe should have a strategy. So far, we are moving one step at a time, very tactically, because Europe is indeed, as you correctly described, wedged in between, and in principle doesn't have resources to simply protect itself. So it has to act very carefully. But if we really want to show that Europe is a geopolitical actor, that we are ready to stand behind not only our values but also core interests, and more importantly, do seriously think that Ukraine's survival and success is our core interest, we need to really go beyond this toolbox that is at our hand and act more resolutely. This might take a bit of a time, but at least instead of thinking another half a year about this useless peacekeeping operation, which will not happen in the near future or in the next 5 years, start thinking what is actually feasible in the next half a year and prepare real plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. And I think also in some ways Europe is realizing in some ways it's been behind for some time, catching up to China as well. And it's not so easy to go in that middle ground, but I think it's something that will need to be done. But we'll analyze another day. Look, Ryhor Nizhnikau, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but there's more coming up right here on TVP World, so stay tuned. Goodbye.